Welcome to Suchar NextGen Tech. Today, we're diving into something that's, well, a total game changer for .NET developers, Docker. We're going to go from code to container. And if you've ever wanted to really, truly get how it all fits together in your workflow, you are in exactly the right place. Okay, so here's our game plan. We're going to tackle this in 3 simple steps. First, we'll unpack the Docker toolkit and look at the core pieces. Then we'll see .NET in action, focusing on a really critical build pattern. And to wrap it up, we're going to get you prepped to absolutely nail that next technical interview. Ah, yes, the 6 most infamous words in all of software development. I mean, we've all been there, right? You build something, it's running perfectly on your machine, you ship it, and then, boom, it just completely falls apart somewhere else. It's so frustrating, and it's a huge waste of time. And that is precisely the problem that Docker solves with something called a container. Just imagine, for a second, packaging up your application, its runtime, all its libraries, literally everything it needs to run, into one single, isolated, standardized little box. That's the big idea. That's what makes Docker so powerful. So let's get into step 1 and open up that toolkit. Once you get your head around these next 3 concepts, everything else about Docker just kind of clicks into place. They're the real foundation. First up, we have the image. The absolute best way to think about an image is as a blueprint. It's a static, read-only template. It's got your .NET code, the ASP.NET runtime, system tools, you name it, it's in there. It's the master copy. Okay, so if the image is the blueprint, what's a container? Well, the container is the actual house you build from that blueprint. It's a live, running instance of your image. You can start them, you can stop them, you can have a bunch of them running at once, all from that one single image. This is your app, alive and kicking. So, how do you actually create that blueprint, the image? You do it with a Dockerfile. It's really just a simple text file, but it is so important. Think of it as a recipe. You write out the steps one by one, and Docker just follows your instructions to assemble the image perfectly, every single time. All right, enough theory. Let's get practical. For any .NET developer working with Docker, probably the single most important pattern you need to know is the multi-stage build. This technique is a complete game changer when you're building production-ready apps. So why do we need this special pattern? What's the point? Well, the goal is simple, but it's crucial. We need our final production image to be as small, as fast, and as secure as possible. The last thing you want to do is ship an image bloated with a bunch of development tools and extra files. That's just asking for trouble. Here's how it works. In stage 1, the build stage, we use a big image that has the full .NET SDK, everything we need to compile our code. Then, and this is the magic part, for stage 2, the prepare stage, we just throw that away and start fresh with a tiny minimal ASP.NET runtime image. Finally, we just copy only the compiled application files from the first stage into our new, clean one. All the heavy development stuff gets left behind. Brilliant, right? Hey, real quick, if this is clicking for you and you're finding this helpful, it would be awesome if you hit that subscribe button. We put out more tech explainers like this all the time. Okay, on to our final step. Let's talk about how to turn all this great knowledge into a real career asset. Because knowing this stuff is one thing, but explaining it clearly in a technical interview is what gets you the job. Let's run through some classic questions. And here it is, the big one. I would almost guarantee you'll get asked this question. So, what's the difference between a container and a VM? Because on the surface, they seem kind of similar. They both give you isolation, but underneath, they are fundamentally different beasts. So here's the absolute key difference. The thing you have to remember. A virtual machine, or VM, virtualizes the hardware. That means every single VM has to run its own complete, full-size guest operating system. That's why they're so heavy and slow to boot. But containers are smarter. They virtualize the operating system itself. They all share the host OS kernel, which makes them incredibly lightweight and ridiculously fast. We're talking seconds to boot versus minutes. That's a huge difference. All right, next up is a really important security question. Your app obviously needs things like database connection strings or API keys to function. How do you handle those secrets safely when you're using a container? The number 1 rule, the most important takeaway, is this. You never hardcode secrets into your Docker file or your source code. Ever. The best practice is to pass them in at runtime as environment variables, just like you see here. This keeps your sensitive credentials completely separate from your image. And what's really cool for .NET developers is that these environment variables automatically map to your appsettings.json configuration. It's secure and convenient. Ooh, now this is a good one. This question really separates the people who have dabbled in Docker from those who have used it seriously. It's all about optimizing your build. So, what is the .docker ignore file for? Honestly, the best analogy, the one that will make it instantly click for any developer, is this one right here. The Docker ignore file is to your Docker build what the git ignore file is to Git. It simply tells Docker, hey, when you're building this image, ignore these files and folders. And why does that matter so much? Well, for a .NET developer, it's huge because it stops you from accidentally copying your local bin and obj folders into the image. This keeps your build process fast, it keeps the image from getting bloated with unnecessary junk, and it prevents some really weird build errors that can happen otherwise. And with that, we've covered the what, the how, and the why. We've gone from the basic building blocks to pro-level patterns. So I'll just leave you with this one thought. You now have the skills to containerize pretty much any .NET app. So, what problem are you going to solve first? Hey, thanks so much for watching. I really hope this helps you on your journey from code to container.